In life spanning, there is no plan B. I'm Jean Faracaba, and my guests are coming to this podcast for a reason. There's no rules, no BS, just pure biohacking. I don't want to know what you have to sell. I want to know who you are. Welcome to the No Plan B podcast. Today, I have someone special talking about the connection of the brain and the body in a way that we don't often see or have knowledge about. Dr. Cathleen King.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Shall I call you Kate, Kathleen,
Cat,
Dr. Kate?
Cat. Dr. Cat is fine.
Dr. Cat. Thank you for that. Dr. Cat. Would you mind to introduce yourself and let us know where you're coming from and what brought you where you are today and why you're doing this type of profession? Or I would not even say profession because it's more of a passion from what I've learned through what I've read about you. But yes, it's all yours to say.
Sure. Yes. So I run a company now called the Primal Trust Academy and Community, and we work with people who have chronic illness of all sorts, ranging from Lyme disease to long-haul COVID, autoimmune, digestive issues, mold illness, as well as trauma patterns and just high-stress folks. And we help them to self-heal from all of these things, a lot of them that we're told are incurable. And we do that through brain retraining, vagus nerve toning, somatic therapy, basically nervous system regulation. And I got into this because I myself was very, very ill for over a decade. I was often bedbound for many years. I had lots of diagnoses ranging from Lyme disease to parasites to mold toxicity to hormone issues, autoimmune issues, digestive issues, chronic fatigue syndrome, something called postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome where I couldn't even stand up. And I went from doctor to doctor. I had a background as a physical therapist, though, so I had a little bit of understanding of the mind-body connection, but it still took me well over a decade to really believe that our body has an innate capacity to self-heal when we learn how to unlock its mechanisms. It has an ability to rebalance the immune system, the digestive system. And so fortunately, it took me way too many years, but eventually I really believed in the science of neuroplasticity and the science of autonomic nervous system rebalancing. And I used a lot of tools for my own body. And sure enough, my chronic Lyme disease and all of these symptoms started to fall away without treating it with medicine or even supplements because I couldn't even tolerate that stuff. And so now here I am. It's been about 6 years from that point, and we are now helping thousands all over the world. We're in over 60 countries worldwide, helping people with all sorts of various diagnoses self-heal.
That's pretty cool. But if I count the number of people that would fit in the categories that you've said, I'm going to be close to 8 billion.
Yeah. I think everybody could use nervous system regulation tools, especially now. Even if you're not chronically sick, we are so stressed that our bodies are starting to just tank. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I think that when you put your finger on one particular syndrome or aspect of that, you will find yourself into that bracket. How do you define that is chronic and not just temporary?
Yeah. When your symptoms are ongoing, unresolving, even if your symptoms resolve in one way, but they pop up in another and it's been 3 months, 6 months, you've got chronic unresolving symptoms. And sometimes it might move from digestive issues to then headaches to weakness to fatigue. Sometimes it moves all over the body. It's not always one thing, but it's this chronic unwellness that is just not leaving. And you just over time sometimes even get used to not having vitality. It's becoming normalized, actually.
Yeah. I was just actually thinking about that. I was going to challenge you by a question saying, is there anybody on this planet that doesn't have something or that is in perfect balance, except me, I would say. But
I haven't met a human in a long time, but
There we go.
something going on.
Here I
To be
am.
honest. Yeah. So nice to meet you, the human,
Thank you.
the superior human.
I can serve at a referential, like the baseline.
Yes.
No, but no kidding. But I think like it is difficult today to have this perfect balance of everything because of our society, because of the way we're trying to chase several rabbits at the same time without catching one. People come to you because they cannot stand their situation anymore. Okay.
Yeah, they've usually been to so many doctors and tried everything, and they either don't have any money left, they're allergic to everything, they're not tolerating treatments, and they're like, is there anything that I can do internally? And the cool thing is there really is. It's not an easy path. Neuroplasticity takes a lot of repetition. It's daily, it's hard work. It really requires you to change your mindset in ways that most people don't or won't, because it's really lifting out of a lot of victim consciousness, radical responsibility. But it's possible to shift your biology.
Yeah. I'm a fan of that. That's something I wrote a book about too, actually. Because it is possible to shift your biology. I want to dig into that topic with you a bit more because I've always been under the impression that you can shift your biology if your environment is different, and your environment, not just physical environment, but also the food and what you breathe in and out, and supplements and things like that. But your approach seems to be putting more focus on the person and the integrity of the person itself before taking the outside in consideration. Am I right? Or
Yeah, a lot of these people have been down the road of diets, getting out of mold, etc., but their body isn't healing, and it's because they're in something called cell danger response, meaning on a cellular level, their autonomic nervous system is stuck in a protective response where they're not even absorbing the nutrients they're taking. They're not even able to detoxify. And this is happening now as an epidemic because our system has been so triggered from EMFs, from toxins, from pathogens, that on a cellular level, we're kind of like this. We're in a protection response, and it's through the autonomic nervous system that we have to unlock that protection response and return to safety. And then those diets and the supplements and it works so much better. But for a lot of people, they have to biohack their own autonomic nervous system first.
Wow. That is something a bit different than what we hear most of the time. Some people are convinced that, like, hey, you cannot sleep, you take magnesium, you're stressed, you take a bit more magnesium and another component. But you go on the other side. How do you trigger that neuroplasticity that is required to make the first step of the 1%? Because neuroplasticity needs pathways, and pathways are not created in one day. So how do you start? How do you get that aligned enough to make sure that they are able to get into neuroplasticity?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So neuroplasticity requires repetition, and specifically to target your limbic system, which is your fear system of the brain. So the first thing we do is we have people actually use creative visualization to open up their memory pathways and look for memories where they were safe, cared for, had joy, felt, happy. Mm-hmm. And you rehearse those memories over and over. And what you're doing is you're opening up the memory center again and again and again. And you're sending messages to the limbic system of, in the past, I was okay. In the past, I had joy. In the past, I did this. You start there for a lot of people, not everybody, but this is one of the main ways. And what's going to happen is the brain doesn't know the difference between the past and the present. And so if you open up your memory file enough times to past safety, it starts to send a different biochemical cocktail in the present moment of safety. So that's one of the ways. Another way is through targeting your vagus nerve. and simply doing breath practices. There's even eye exercises to target the vagus nerve that interrupts that stress loop that comes back to the brain. And you do that over and over and over, and you strengthen your vagus nerve to send signals of safety back to the brain. So those are a couple ways that we typically start with this process of change.
So reminds me a bit of hypnosis in a way. Any tools to help you into the process? Just to make a short story, but I was part of this trials with the company Halo Neuro at that time. They had this headset, triggering neuroplasticity, and it was working very, very well. Actually, the priming was definitely some things that was working. Are you using those type of tools or infrared or not at all?
It is self-generated biohacking. It's a specific algorithm of how you become aware of the present moment, interrupt what your brain is habitually spinning on, redirecting it to a past event, and then directing it again to a future event. So you're lighting up your brain in a particular way over and over and over again. And over time, it reroutes the way that the limbic system is associating both your internal environment and your external environment. And we typically recommend people do this for anywhere from 30 minutes to 60 minutes a day if you're chronically sick. So it's a dedication. But if you're bedbound and you're not functioning, you've got that time. And the science shows that you can reroute your brain and create that biochemistry on your own. And we have thousands of people do it, and they do amazing things.
But you need to teach them how to do it, because
it's not hard.
No,
it's not hard. I can teach my kids know how to do it. It's not hard. I mean, I really just it's a creative process. It's literally about right now. What are you thinking? Oh, I'm stressed out about this symptom in my body. Again, I'm wondering what it is or what I should take or da 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 da. So you're in a stress loop. You're going to interrupt that. Okay, there I go down that stress rabbit hole again. I'm going to interrupt the limbic system. You're going to come into the present moment. You can do anything you want, whether it's breathing for a minute, noticing your environment, anything to just trigger you into this moment. So now your prefrontal's online. Then we're going to go back into a memory. We're going to think about a time where you were feeling joy or calm or capable, and you rehearse a memory for a few minutes, maybe even up to 15 minutes, depending on where you're at, where you're literally speaking about it as if it's happening right now. You're describing all the senses. And then we switch into the future and we light up our right prefrontal cortex with a future visualization about what's possible, something positive, something that we want to be able to experience. Again, you make it detailed. And then the idea is you try to produce an emotional experience, self-produce an emotional experience. And at first, it's hard to do that. At first, you're just like saying things and your body's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. But when you keep doing it over time, it's like the brain is like, she's still looking for those positive memories. Okay, here's one. And it will start to show you.
Okay.
And over time, your limbic system will start to produce this positive chemistry. So that's the brain retraining piece. Again, we do other things like vagus nerve toning, somatic movement, and certain trauma healing practices. But that's typically where we start people off, is that neuroplastic rewiring of their limbic system set point.
That is pretty cool and interesting, actually. But I'm trying to challenge you, because I love what you're doing, and I want people to understand that is real and that it's working. Okay, let's pretend I'm ADHD. Actually, I'm not pretending. How you're going to get me to put my mind into trying 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, a squirrel. Oh, what was it I was thinking about? How'd you get me there?
Good question. So a few different ways. We do have guided practices that you're kind of listening along. But initially, at first, especially with ADHD, you're literally just practicing the awareness, pattern interrupt, like, oh, there I go thinking again. And then notice something in the room for 10 to 30 seconds. That's it. Over and over and over. And it's going to start getting you to the practice of interrupting habitual thoughts to the present moment, to the present moment, to the present moment. And that in and of itself starts to stop that stress biochemistry into the body. And then usually when the stress biochemistry stops, the ADHD quiets down a little bit. The more present you are, the more capacity you have to visualize. And maybe you're somebody who doesn't love visualizing. You could do breath work. You could do certain types of mindful movement, moving and following your body. And that's usually a little easier as well. Anything that interrupts that habitual thought pattern into the present moment, triggering the vagus nerve, triggering the autonomic nervous system into a safer set point, it's going to start to turn off that cellular cell danger response so that you do start absorbing nutrients, your digestive system turns on, etc.
That's something pretty big, actually. You know, we're always talking about biohacking. We're in a society in America where give me a magic pill and get me there. Now you center everything on the individual, forcing them to realize that they are existing in a way. It's a bit similar as meditation, I would go, kind of.
It is. It's a little bit more of an active form. Meditation, especially if you're sick, you can start just staying in that limbic brain and looping. So this type of person needs to get more prefrontal and more present moment awareness and getting out of that loop to just quiet down the limbic brain. And then eventually maybe you can go back into meditation. But typically we actually have people stop meditation for a little while, work on rerouting the way their brain works. And then once they're able to be more present, then try the meditation. It's usually easier.
I got that. Let's jump into the topic you mentioned at the beginning. So you are able to, rewire the brain, you trigger the neuroplasticity, you rewire the brain in the proper way, and then you are able to get rid of certain chemical, if I understand.
Yeah, you're able to, when you're on a cellular level, when you move into a state of safety, your body naturally starts getting rid of toxins, and it also starts to absorb things. Your hypothalamus produces a different biochemistry. A lot of things happen by simply being in a state of present moment safety. Our body's wisdom turns online. We just don't spend enough time there.
It's so true. You know, there is one study that is very interesting. They put 50 people in a room without phone, without anything, without noise, and it's kind of boring where you cannot do anything except being with yourself. 99% of these people went out of the room before 12 minutes. No one in our society is capable of being with himself. It's a great challenge for anyone. And it's, I wonder, when people come to you, they are capable of doing that after you teach them how to do it. Yeah.
And then it becomes this sacred time. They realize that is the time we create our reality.
Yeah. I love that. Sometimes I brag a bit on that, but I spend 2 hours a day with myself. No phone, nothing. And it's the only way I can ground myself to the state of pure zenness.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah. Do you do that inside, outside? How do you do that?
Most of the time I go outside and I just stay there. No music, nothing, no phone, no nothing. Yeah. And it's so important. I've learned so much about myself because of doing that. And I know that my brain functions way better. Yeah. We're not going to talk too much about me, but I got rid of my ADHD doing these things.
Yeah. I was just going to say that is one of the best healing things you could do for any chronic illness. I say that these tools are great, but being outside without any stimulus in nature heals the body. We remember just by looking at the plants, the birds, the trees, there's something that comes into us and reminds our natural intelligence how to come into harmony again. So I love that.
It is true. Yeah. So we're on the same wavelength on that. Yeah. And at the beginning, when you started this 6 years ago, you said, what brought you there? Because you were sick. You mentioned that briefly, but you were sick and you got there. Do you think that deep inside of you, if you were not sick, would you have turned to be the same or the same pattern, the same career? Okay.
There's no way. I mean, this work it's experiential. I wouldn't have believed it. In fact, it took me 10 years to start doing nervous system work because I didn't believe it would work for Lyme disease and mold toxicity. I was that person. I didn't believe it myself. Yeah. And I had run out of options and I was seeing the best doctors and I wasn't getting well because I was a traumatized mess. And eventually it was all I had left. There's no way I would have gotten into this had I not been humbled into the process of relying on the wisdom of my own body. and experiencing that these tools can shift your infectious symptoms, which is amazing.
Yeah, because most doctors are trained to cure using chemicals, and they can't believe, because they've not been educated that way, they cannot believe that you can cure anything by just using your body. It's actually true. To what extent, I don't know, you know better than me. Do you think we could eventually cure anything that could happen to a body by pushing the limit of our mind and body connection, if I can call that like that? Up to, and I'm going to raise a polemic on that, up to cancers.
Well, when we see that people do self-heal from cancer, from near-death experiences, what happened to them?
Yeah.
They got some type of massive internal reorientation with nature, with God, with whatever, and cancers heal. We see that with Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, with deep, deep moments of self-realization and connection with the all. That internal, our body, when we reconnect with that which we are, I do believe that wisdom is capable, is all capable.
Awesome.
Now, the challenge is getting connected to, like you're doing every day, the 2 hours away of getting disconnected and then, connecting to yourself. That is our challenge. And that's what the nervous system tools really are, just doing that, connecting to ourselves again and again and again. I think that we don't even, we've been programmed to look outside of ourselves for the healing for so many generations now that we've lost how you would maybe go inward and sit with yourself for a couple weeks when you started getting really sick and reconnect and then emerge out of that room whole again.
That's true.
So
the self, it is like self-awareness. It's completely neglected in our world today. I've read on, probably I think it was on your website, some things that directly got me hyped. You said, I'm a professor. I like education at large. I think that our world lacks education in several aspects. Is that your main goal in life, teaching others?
Absolutely. The best skill on the planet right now, I think, would be the ability to self-regulate our own nervous system. And if we can teach each other this basic skill, I think so much would change. I want everyone on this planet to have that skill of, I know how to self-regulate my own nervous system. And it will be unique from one person to another. For you, it's going outside for 2 hours. For someone else, it could be doing art or whatever it is for them that brings them back into balance so that our children grow up around self-regulated adults, because that's where things are going wrong. So yeah, I'd really love everybody to learn that art of self-regulation.
What do we do to get there?
Well, we get off these phones.
Much.
And we feel our feelings, because what's happened is we're not processing our emotions anymore. And so it's a bumpy ride to self-regulate, because there's a period where you've got to feel what's in there. And when we keep getting dopamine dosing from this, we're not going to feel it. So unfortunately, the path to self-regulation requires us to traverse through the buried emotion and the judgments and all of that that's stuck in there. You got to work through that.
Yeah. Do you think that is because the education of our parents, that we have not been educated to express emotion, to say things, or just like when we're sad, it was like you go on your side, don't express that you're sad or even happy. And so if you do that with your kids will probably find it as a natural process, and the legacy that you're creating today, it's going to be visible in 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 generations, which I do love. It's just like, I think it's our mission on this planet. And how many kids you have?
I have 2.
2, cool. Oh, yeah. A daughter and
a son, 11 and 13.
Nice. Oh, 13, pretty cool. Mine, she's 19, and it's a different story, but at 19, she's a woman. But it's same. I've tried as you tried, not with the techniques you have, because I'm not as instructed as you are in that field, but I tried also to educate her to express herself way more. And it's a gift, because they remain very close to you when they have to share something. We as adults don't share those things even with friends most of the time, and not family, for sure. Yeah. So I'll go back to my question. What do we do? How do we do that?
Yeah. A big part of the program that we teach, there's nervous system tools, But actually, the tools are to give you the enough self-regulation so you can practice speaking your truth, so you can practice sharing. Because we have to be able to calm down our nervous system or teach our nervous system to allow us to do these things that we decided a long time ago were not safe and not okay. And it takes self-regulation to have the courage to start expressing, to start sharing, to start feeling. So the nervous system tools are stage one of the process. It gets you into, a little bit more of a balanced state. But stage two is trauma healing. And it's healing those protective patterns that we all have, whether it's, hiding how we feel, or some of us overly controlling and, trying to control others rather than. And so the nervous system tools are for you to become self-aware of, I'm feeling out of balance right now. I'm afraid to tell this person how I'm feeling, but I'm going to do my practices so that I can regulate enough to speak what I need to say.
I see.
And that's where I really see alignment come in, when you are authentic, when you feel what's there and you're able to be with it.
How do you get rid of comparison and ego in the process?
Well, I don't think you get rid of it, but I think that you become so aware of it that it can be there, but you don't need to choose to have allegiance with it. We don't get rid of the ego. It's part of us. These parts that are judgmental or protective, they're part of us. It's about developing, we call this inner adult main personality. It's a brain state that's a whole brain state that can feel our parts, our protector, our judge, our perfectionist, and you feel those urges, but you don't need to choose to act them out, but you still have to feel them. And it's okay that they're there. It's okay that you've got this judgmental part of you, but it doesn't mean that that's what you have all of your allegiance with emotionally. So it's expanding your consciousness around all of these parts rather than getting rid of any of them.
I like that. Acceptance instead of deny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Do you think that adding some sort of chemical or technologies in the process of what you're doing would speed up the process? I'm going to just take an example. There's a lot of research going fast in how to align your brain using infrared therapy, for example. Certain stimulation in 19 parts of your brain could get your brain in a mode or in another type of mood in general, or light and sound. Do you think that if we add those technologies to what you're doing, we're going to go like one step above and get faster and have many more people?
I think so. I've looked at a lot of these devices. I've actually hooked myself up to see, and they're pretty cool how they can assist some of this rerouting. But actually, when I went to a center that is a TMS center. Are you familiar with those?
Yeah.
So he measured my brain and he came out of the room and he's like, you know how to hack your limbic system? I'm like, yeah, I do.
What the?
He's like, he showed me my brain. It was totally blue-green.
Yeah.
What do you do? I'm like, brain retraining. So you can do this on your own. And if you're having struggles, especially a lot of suicidal ideation, depression, severe anxiety, using some of these new biotech devices, I think is a really great win-win here.
Yeah, it puts them up to the path of practicing faster and better and then learning from it, creating this neuroplasticity that you're chasing and able to rewire your brain. I think that the world is coming to a great momentum now where we're understanding way more that we were able to do it before. And neuroscience is still very new, so we're still discovering, and there's still aspects that we don't master. In the future, we may see chips integrated in brain. What's your take on that?
I think part of why we're here is to be human and to struggle and to experience through the human body the struggles, to develop compassion. I think we go back to a place where we're free of struggle and we're here for a purpose. And I think if we biohack that purpose, we're missing out on some key soul lessons, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a great debate to have today because it's coming super fast. AI is taking the lead on many aspects of our lives. I agree with you. Compassion is probably one of the best things that people can achieve in their entire life. But so many lack of compassion. And I don't know if AI will help us to have more or no.
I know. It's quite an interesting time we're living in. I don't want us to lose our humanness, I mean, the messy humanity that we're here to play with and learn from. I know when I was struggling, of course, it'd be nice if a chip just got put in my head and my illness was gone and all of that. But I learned so much. in hindsight.
But you know it after, you don't know it during the process. That's the thing. When we go through hell, the moment is hard. And after you say, oh, I've learned, it was, I survived, I became stronger. What happened to the people that actually go through that process and don't survive and don't become stronger and end up by having cancers or suicidal temper? Why is that? Why some are?
Why do some make it? Why do some not? And I don't know. I think that there are people that near the end of their life that really were dying from cancer, and they said, I still got to this point of love, and this was my way of getting there. Maybe it was somehow to affect the family members around them for their journey. Like, we're in one great web where some of us have hardships and it affects our family, and they have to go on a journey to deal with that grief. And that's part of their journey. And I don't know why it doesn't. Obviously, some of us don't pull out. It's not the path for everybody. I have no idea.
Education, what you think?
Yeah,
probably. Let's jump back to your company and your organization. But by the way, I think it's more because of our society, with all the pressure that we put on ourselves and the society puts on everyone. Jumping back to what we said before. Too many people are trying to compare themselves or are not happy because of social media, for example. And it's going to be even worse in the future because we see that all the systems that were there to educate people are all shifting to social media information. And it's hard to make the difference between the truth and the fake.
It's true.
So I was, you see, when you already put my brain in in the right mood, getting philosopher.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, why primal in the title of your company? I suspect the answer, but I want to hear it from you.
Well, there's a couple reasons. The first reason is actually I had a therapist play the sound bowl on my body several years ago. And it gave me the feeling of the most beautiful connection with life itself. And I said, what's the name of that bowl? And she said, oh, it's called the primal trust frequency, or Schumann's resonance. And I said, that was the moment I'm like, I'm going to do everything I can to self-create that feeling in my body that bowl gave to me. But then I thought later, as I was deciding to form the company, like, what are we missing? We're in primal fear all the time, but is it also our birthright to be in embodied primal trust? And where was that lost along the way? And I want to restore that innate human birthright that I also think that we have, which is primal trust.
Yeah, the name is fantastic. Honestly, it's really cool and it sounds awesome. My perception on that was more into the deep primal understanding of where we come from, the brain. And
that too.
All the stem and everything, like controlling this thing. Some scientists are saying loudly that there is no way that you can play with your vagus nerve, and you say completely the opposite.
Yeah. I know there's a huge debate. I've really appreciated the polyvagal theory by Stephen Porges and his teachings. And I found that while some people, I think it's harder for them to affect their vagus nerve for some reasons, I've absolutely seen people in moments doing some of these exercises. Maybe we don't know exactly what they're affecting, but they're affecting the autonomic nervous system because we see transformation. We see heart rate variability shift immediately. We see heart-brain coherence. So it's doing something, and I don't know how to prove what nerve we're actually affecting, but there are techniques that affect the autonomic nervous system some way, somehow. So that's what I'd say about that.
So we leave open the debate on that, and that's cool. we are meant to raise the bar by debating and questioning everything. This is the beauty of science in general. You cannot be on the status quo of what was true yesterday is not true tomorrow. Otherwise, science doesn't move. And yeah, we keep going in that direction. What people should do to get in touch with you, learn more about you, and maybe get through the process of learning what you teach?
Sure. Well, we have a pretty easy way to learn about us and learn about the whole science of self-healing with autonomic nervous system rebalancing through a book that I wrote that's free and it's downloadable on my website. It's a 127-page guide called How Healing Happens. And I go through the entire science. It's basically like a mini program. And I give you several tools, brain retraining, vagus nerve toning, somatics in the book so that you can understand and really get the rational buy-in behind the capacity of your body to self-heal. Because we have to often convince our mind when we've gotten all these diagnoses and all these authority figures. So this book teaches you the science of the cell danger response, the science of limbic system retraining, polyvagal theory, somatics, trauma healing, and what that's doing and how that actually starts to shift chronic symptoms from often incurable, supposedly incurable things, and why that would affect infection, long-haul COVID, and things like that. So that's on my website. It's called How Healing Happens, and my website is primaltrust.org. We also have a
Instagram,
yes.
yeah.
And we're on Instagram, and we have a lot of free content there. So it's primaltrust_official. And on YouTube, I've got a ton of free videos there to really teach you. I really want to get as much of the science and understanding out in the world. I teach a ton of tools. In my community, we have a membership, and it's just one price. It's $96 a month. And we have a whole academy where I walk you through sequentially from tool to tool because there's an order of things that matters, especially if you have trauma. And then we also have a community. So we have live classes almost every day, sometimes a few times a day. So you can show up live and we do nervous system regulation together, brain retraining, all sorts of things like that. I'm there and I have lots of other mentors and that's all included. There's no upsell with that. And so it's really, it's an amazing platform. We're in over 60 countries. We worked with almost 10,000 people now and it's going so well. So those are a lot of the ways you can get involved.
Cool. Are you getting people certified or accredited or that they can become teacher as you are?
Yeah, I have several mentors who have trained with me and they help people, but I am considering making an actual professional certification program.
Academy,
and that's my project for the year.
Cool.
So
yeah, I love that. You should, and we're going to support you on that. You know what I suggest you to do is send the link of your book. We're going to put the page and the cover on our magazine. I'd like to have people to get access through that, not only from the podcast, but from the magazine as well, like to see what you're doing. I think it's the value that you put behind these efforts that will definitely make this world a better place to live. And I'm 100% for that.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing this knowledge. It was actually very interesting for me. I almost felt in peace talking to you.
I feel the same way. You are a like-minded soul. I was like, yeah, we get each other.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's awesome.